computer is always working. All right, so this is our final group. This is week 13 with the Keurig / Green Mountain negotiations for the coffee maker.
And we cannot find any information about the negotiations, so we're kind of winging it here.
Like,
all right. So I just kind of did a little bit, it's a pretty simple analysis on it. They ask about the True North, and basically that summarizes where they have to spend $700,000 to build their own packaging and facility plant. It costs them 13 cents per cup to make. Then they're also responsible for their own order and processing. So basically, it costs them 19 cents per cup, and that basically leaves them a margin of 6 cents per cup. So even just to break even, they'd have to sell like 11,666,000 just to break even at that point to cover their costs.
That would start, yeah.
And then for GMCR, they figured their total costs were about 14 cents per cup, so that gives them 11 cent margin. And so my initial thoughts, if they were asking, I think Keurig was asking for 2 cents per cup, which is I think more than reasonable. But then if they want exclusivity, but that cuts out a big part of Keurig's market, I'd charge them at least 5 cents a cup.
Yeah.
So that gives them 5 cents a cup. They can focus on the engineering side. That still leaves GMCR with 6 cents per cup. And so I think that's kind of a good even middle ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So I kind of went the same way, but I didn't really see in the case. I mean, they said in an ideal situation, they wouldn't bear the cost of that $700,000 investment. So I didn't factor that in. But I did go through the annual per cup economic analysis. A traditional cup of coffee costs 12.5 cents. And at 43 cups a day, at 250 work days a year, that's about 10,700 cups of coffee, roughly. And that's about $3,000-ish, $3,218. Whereas if you went with a K cup, that's only an additional $2,156. So it's basically the true cost of a cup of coffee with cleaning fees associated with the traditional coffee machines is about 29.9 cents, whereas a K cup costs 50 cents. So it is kind of a premium, but I think that's where the Green Mountain coffee roasters, I mean, they are kind of a premium brand. And it did say that there was some brand recognition with the GMCR stuff, which kind of played a part in the office managers saying, yeah, I think we'll go with this because it's kind of a perk essentially.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and then the one other thing that the case mentioned that I didn't know I think it mentioned that they were paying one of their main office staff who makes $15 an hour. They were cleaning the machine for 30 minutes a day. So that increases the cost of the other ones by about $1,800 a year, which isn't a ton, but to think that you're paying somebody $1,800 a year to clean and make coffee seems pretty ridiculous. So I thought it brought the K cup into even a more reasonable spot because like it said, it was a lot easier. You didn't have anyone bickering or throwing stuff away. It was just anyone could walk in, throw in the K cup and have what they wanted in 30 seconds.
Kind of an interesting side note. The company that I work for now does the Flavia.
Okay. They mentioned them in the case.
Yeah. And every single break room in the entire plant has a coffee machine, and it's got those little pouches. And they spend about $300,000 a year on coffee.
Wow.
It's a pretty big business. And I mean, I think we've only got 1,200 people on plant. So 1,200 people, $300,000 a year for coffee. So
each person gets a $300 more or less bonus as far as that's concerned, as to just a $300 coffee salary is part of their yearly salary.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then people
Yeah,
do.
that's $50 per person they're spending on coffee.
I mean, so it's kind of interesting. I mean, they've got like 5 or 6 different teas, and then they've got like 15 different coffee flavors, and then there's like hot chocolate, one hot chocolate down in the bottom corner.
Yeah, we thought about getting a Keurig just for the hot chocolate.
Yeah.
You see them everywhere now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely didn't know that Keurig was a 1990s kind of is when those companies started. I thought they were definitely a brand new company, more or less, but maybe they just more so recently became more consumer level. Because I think now a Keurig machine costs like less than $200. They're still not.
Oh yeah, no, there's less than $100.
Oh, are they less than $100? Oh, I didn't know they were that cheap. Even I thought they were like
fairly cheap. Because I remember 10, 15 years ago, the hotel, they said, "Hey, we'll give you all these Keurig brewers to put in all your rooms." So basically, they put them in the rooms, and we just have to buy the coffee, kind of same thing. Oh. It's trying to get the name out there, get the recognition of this new product and way of making coffee.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I mean, I guess they didn't give up on it, since you said your office has the Flavia. But I did think it was interesting that it basically said that Mars, in this like multi-billion-dollar industry, was just like, oh yeah, we got ours. It works perfectly. It's over there. You guys are pouring your heart and soul into your machine, and it's mediocre right now. It's like, we got one. It's like, and they just didn't even care. They're just like, oh yeah, we got a perfect version right over there. Okay. So because I think the case basically said, and our only hope was the fact that they didn't really care to be in the industry, and we had everything on this deal basically. So I thought that was funny that they just, the difference between a very large company and a very small company. It's that, yeah, we could get into the $1 billion market if we wanted to, probably. I mean, our machine works, but I'm just waiting to get back on. I got more ideas for the Snickers line. I want to start working on that. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Just one of their playing cards.
Yeah. Is Flavia, do you know, is it a consumer brand? Can a homeowner buy that? Because I've only seen the Keurig for the K-Cups mostly. Not that I'm shopping often, but it's the one that I recognized for sure.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any outside of, work.
Yeah. But same thing, I assume. It's not, you haven't fallen in love with it at work that you want to have one at home?
No, it really is kind of an office sort of thing. I mean, the machine itself is probably, it's the size of like a small cooler almost, and it seems really labor intensive. But, it's not something that I think it's not something you can just set on the counter and.
More commercial size.
Yeah, it is a commercial unit.
Okay, so. That makes sense. All right, so it looks like it kind of in the negotiation for this. What was kind of your tone? How did you go into the negotiation? And I guess also, I feel like David, you kind of touched on it, that if they wanted exclusivity, I feel like they had a little bit more kind of like they could throw their weight around a little bit more. It's like, oh, well, yeah, you can have exclusivity, but that's going to cost you. But the other one, it's kind of like 2 cents a cup. I feel like what you said, pretty fair. So I don't think they need to go in like with a hard sale, because I feel like the Green Mountain coffee or green coffee, the GMCR is a big enough that I don't think they would have really been upset about that or anything. And yeah, I think they could have gone in with a pretty soft sale, like, hey, it's not exclusive, but we're only charging you this much to use our system.
It sounds like they got a pretty good communication, working relationship as it is. Now they do their R&D together, and it sounds like they've already done quite a bit together.
Yeah, and it sounds like they already have a pretty jovial tone, because it sounded like their sales rep from like day one was like, hey, we should buy you guys. You should just let us buy you. And they're like, settle down. All right, we're doing our own thing. But it sounded like they were pretty close, pretty friendly. So I assume the tone of negotiations probably should have followed that route. The only place they would have had to maybe go a little more strong-armed, I think, would be if GMCR was saying, well, we don't want you to sell to anyone else. I feel like at that point, they'd kind of have to be like, we can talk about that, but it's going to change our numbers a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So I felt like the real negotiating power kind of rests with GMCR. It seems like they have more to offer, as far as, you know, what they can do for Keurig than what Keurig can do for GMCR.
Yeah.
And GMCR is just looking at, you know, kind of branching out. They've already got a fully functional working business that's selling to, you know, various outlets, but they just said they haven't been able to break into the office business yet. And this would be a way for them to do that, which they figure would net them about 8% higher on their overall sales. But they don't necessarily need Keurig to do that. I mean, they might be able to pursue partnerships elsewhere, but they do kind of have a lot of time invested in the engineering of the units and kind of formulating the K-cups and different, you know, product lines, stuff like that. So, I kind of think that in this particular instance, GMCR's got more to offer.
I definitely think Keurig, I would agree, needs GMCR more than GMCR needs Keurig. Although if they don't play ball, then Keurig goes to a competitor and says, okay, here's what we can do and help you, this part of the market, and give you this part of the market. Then there's still the home market. So do you want to have this new upcoming thing, or do you want your competitors to have it?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of that, all right, well, I understand we need you, but, if you don't want to play games here, we're going to go over here and play.
Yeah,
exactly.
But that being said, I mean, it mentioned that they had a patent or two, but it didn't, but the fact that Flavia is making it, their patent isn't on the K-cup type design. And since GMCR has been so involved in the engineering, I feel like if Keurig was like too intense, they'd be like, hey, we don't want to be the jerks here, but we know how to make the machine. We'll edit it enough to bypass your patents, but it's like, we'll just make it ourselves and sell it. Like, it would take them a little bit more work, but I feel like they could get to the same position without Keurig. Now, they would speed things up a lot, and it would be a good relationship, but I feel like they could, if Keurig got a little bit too like, hey, it's us or no one, they'd be like, well, it's also just us that we could use. So I feel like they both have power, but they both have weakness, basically, I think is, the truth of it there. This one's a lot better position than the last week or 2 weeks ago. The ones with Apple. They didn't really have much power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, So, I guess I didn't. So, what actions did your counterparty take? So, when I thought of I didn't do the assignment, but I did kind of play the negotiation out, I'll admit. I was definitely Keurig. I didn't even know. I guess I didn't think of the fact that the way it poses that you could be either business. I was Keurig when I was thinking of negotiations. Is that, I don't know. Is that what you guys did?
Yeah, so I just laid out the actions that we might run into. So, like, for instance, barriers to entry. So, like you said, the patents.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that there actually is a patent on the K-cup. Because the Flavia design is more of a pouch. It looks like a large foil tea bag with a like a little tea nozzle at the top. You just drop it in, and then you push a door closed, and then it punctures the top, fills it up with hot water, and then it pops out the bottom. So it is different than the K-cup design. Quite frankly, probably works better. So barriers to entry would be the patents. Who pays for the packaging lines is another big one. With GMCR, they through the R&D, they've already got the packaging lines in place, so they wouldn't have to, raise that issue with a supplier. And at this point, there is no. They're essentially selling the customer a brand new idea. So it's going to come with a lot of education, and it's going to have to be, a leap of faith on, the part of, existing coffee roasters. So who pays for the packaging lines could be a big issue in negotiations, when you're dealing with, should we grant them exclusivity, or should we go and try to get other people to, invest heavily in producing for just us? And then how much royalty is too much? Again, we have to look at the zone of possible agreement and see where, what's that area where it's still beneficial for both parties. And then who holds the power in the negotiation. Kind of talked about that a little bit already. And I feel like GMC holds the power really in the relationship. So those are kind of a few of the actions that I could see coming up that might sway the negotiation one way or the other.
I know, and I was wondering if GMCR would be interested in just flat out buying Keurig.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing.
Licensing and then just flat out buy it. How do you back to valuation? What's the valuation on when they don't have any sales yet?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially where they're saying, "Can you pay the $700,000 to get this thing going?" It's like, let's just pay $1.5 million and buy. Like, I don't know what, like you said, their valuation isn't. They've got some, but at the same time, they're asking for $700,000. I feel like, there's definitely a position where it's just like, how much do you guys cost as a company?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So I think we kind of walked through the next part. Did you walk through the per cup economic analysis, which I feel like we discussed a little bit at the beginning, that has an advantage to their asking price of that 2 cent is where it kind of points out. It's like, oh, this is a fair asking price. They can still make a good amount of money. But what are the major points of disagreement that you encountered? And I feel like that one, in my mind, the main thing on that one was the exclusivity. Kind of just that was, in my mind, what they would fight for, that maybe Keurig wouldn't be able to bend on as much. They're just kind of well, we've helped you design this. I kind of thought we were in this. I mean, they weren't, but I feel like GMCR could imagine that they were a little bit more 50-50 on this, and kind of wait, now you're going to sell this to everyone, even our competitors? Mm-hmm. Like, well, what do we have to do for exclusivity? And I can see that kind of being the point of disagreement. We're like, well, 8 cents a cup, or like something quite a bit higher than the 2, and then it becomes, well, we can't do that. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the exclusivity and the per cup, if they do exclusive, how much is exclusivity worth?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the time that they were discussing this, exclusivity really wasn't worth a whole lot because there was nobody else in the market.
Yeah.
And at that point, they didn't know how big Keurig would be. So, I mean, at that point, I may have been tempted to offer exclusivity just to get the product up and going.
Fair enough.
I mean, maybe not in perpetuity, but just for a certain amount of time, because they're going to want time to recoup, their investments, their R&D. They've kind of been throwing money at this idea for the last, however many years, 2-3 years or so, and they haven't seen any kind of return. So they're going to want to see some return on their capital. So, I mean, granting them exclusivity for, a small amount of time wouldn't necessarily be that big of a deal, at least in my eyes.
That's true.
Ultimately, if they're going to be a major contributor in getting Keurig out there as a brand, I don't think I'd be opposed necessarily to granting exclusivity, with some sort of a deadline in place.
Yeah.
an expiration.
I am curious to what degree this type of thing, because I mean, I feel like at some parts it was saying it was a really big deal. I mean, your company spends $300,000 plus on coffee. I'm curious if any company uses this as like a hiring point to like if exclusivity would be valuable to a company to pay more for. So I'm just curious if it's like, oh, well, I want to work for GMC because they have the GMCR coffee machines in their offices. It's like, I want to really work for Toyota because I know what kind of coffee machine they have. Or if like Toyota, somebody like that, like says, and I don't know if anyone's mentioned, we do have Flavia's in the office. It's like, okay. I'm curious if that ever really comes up as like a selling point in anywhere. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think it helps. I mean, it's just one of those small perks that kind of makes work a little less.
That's true. I guess that's true. It's more of the morale boost to your current employees, less than the hiring point to new employees. That's a good point.
I mean, if I were a coffee drinker, I wouldn't pass on a better employment opportunity because of coffee. That's for sure.
That's fair.
But I mean, it is a nicety that just adds to the atmosphere.
Yeah, I didn't think about it. The already employed, it's definitely and we might get Flavia's. Absolutely, I will be much happier at work if you do that. I can see that for sure. So that's a good point. So I guess the next part is kind of just moving on. I would say how important is this negotiation to Keurig and what is at stake? I feel like it's a great starting point for them. Definitely get them in the game a lot faster if they could team up, because they get to steal the clout of GMCR. So I think it's just an accelerant for them, a catalyst to kind of get them started. But I have a feeling they would have. I actually don't know if they teamed with GMCR or not, to what degree. But I think they would have been able to make it without them, just at a slower timetable.
Yeah, that's a good point. It kind of depends also on if they're able to raise enough capital to get through, that first few years until they become profitable, and a host of other things too. So my take on it was, what's at stake for them is the difference between having an established company take care of operations and packaging of the K-Cups and having to do all that themselves, which is essentially 6 cents on a 25-cent product with, what does it say, 12 or 13 cent cost to produce. So, I mean, really between distribution and the cost of the cup itself, they're really only making 6 cents per cup, which is not a whole lot. Plus, they have to absorb the cost of the Keurig machine itself, and I'm assuming that for the first few years, at least, if they were unable to partner with GMCR, they would have to find distributors, or they would probably have to bear the cost of the production line for the first few distributors while they proved the model and got other distributors interested in the product. So I mean, really, it's time, getting your brand out there quicker versus drawing it out much slower.
Yeah.
Interesting side note. It looks like they did end up buying them.
Oh, did they?
Eventually, yeah. 2006, they bought them. So Green Mountain had 35%. They bought the remaining 65% for $104 million.
There you go.
In 2006, and then another company just bought, or in 2015, bought Green Mountain Keurig for like, what did it say, several billion, 34 billion, I think it was. So we did all right.
In my mind, then, that recent company was the one that saw it as a retail opportunity, because I feel like maybe it's just because I'm not in that world or don't pay attention to it, but in my mind, that 2015 is probably when it became more of a, you go to any Bed Bath Beyond or type place, and it's like, oh, now we sell this Keurig machine. Like,
Started seeing more.
yeah, I feel like so that new company must have thought, why are they only selling this to offices? Let's sell this to everyone. So that is interesting. So how do you view Keurig's position? Which I feel like was kind of discussed earlier, that it was like they had some power, but not all the power, because GMCR could go elsewhere or kind of come up with their own in a little bit of time. So, and I guess that kind of, what's their position? And I feel like the next bullet lines up to is how important is it to GMCR? And that it's kind of great. It's a win-win for everyone kind of teaming up, but they can both survive without the team up, it seems. That's my thought. I don't know if anyone has another. Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. And Keurig needs to find an investor or a backer in order to keep going and to get it out there.
Yeah.
But they need someone else's money to get it out there. But I think there's definitely an opportunity to be had by using this new technology, if you want to call it that, to get a foothold in the market. So there's an opportunity for whoever wants to invest in Keurig, but Keurig needs the money to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess in that leads to the next question. What's the maximum value that could be shared between GMCR and Keurig? I didn't really understand.
I think the maximum value would be the 11 cents, because Keurig can only do it for 6 cents. GMCR can do it for 11 cents, so they can share that 11 cents somehow.
So I got 13 cents, and I might be mistaken, but so I've the maximum value that can be shared. So the cost for GMCR to produce it, I thought was 12 cents. Was that right?
Pull this back up here.
Purple.
So assuming the cost is 12 cents and the sell price to the distributor is 25 cents, I saw the GMCR profit of, so it boils down to what percentage royalty would they be sharing between the two. So how much of that 13 cents can they split between each other? So GMCR takes however many cents of 13 cents, and the royalty would come from the difference. So I put 13 cents as the maximum value that could be shared between GMCR and Keurig.
Is that before? But there was also like a 2 cents, I think, that was for shipping and this distribution. There's distribution costs. So producer, I think that's where you get the 13 cents. But there's another 2 cents for like distribution and fulfilling orders. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that other 2 cents, it would cost Keurig 6 cents to do the distribution at first, because they would have to get kind of set up for the fulfillment and all that. So that's one of the benefits that was one of the other benefits for joining, is that there would just be an
GMCR already has it established, and they can do it for less because of scale, and they already,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so kind of same idea though. There's that 11 cents, 12 cents, whatever, that they can split. It just matter, okay, how are we going to split this up between the two?
Yeah, I am curious, because actually, as I'm reading that again, though, I have that pulled up. It's just at the end of page 5, more or less. It's the second and third last paragraph of page 5, if you're looking at it. But it does say if GMCR would incur all direct costs, they would be expected to average 12 cents per cup. But then it also says, and I don't know if it's an additional, but it does say all direct costs. And I feel like fulfillment and that is shipping and fulfillment. That's part of direct costs, isn't it?
No, that's an indirect cost.
Oh, okay.
You have the cost to manufacture it, and then you have your overhead, other costs.
I didn't know shipping, I guess, was part. I for some reason thought shipping was part of a direct, but fair enough.
Hold on, I'm trying to keep this back open. I haven't opened it up.
Yeah. So you're right in that. Yeah, I guess your total. So how much, I guess, what would you think would be the fair breakup between Keurig and GMCR? If there is 11 or 13 cents to be shared. What do you think's the fair breakup?
So if Keurig just pursues it on their own, they're in 6 cents profit per cup. So I would, if I was Keurig, I would probably push for 6 cents.
Makes sense.
So, but then I mean that leaves GMCR making only 5 cents, assuming that it's 11 cents per cup, but 7 cents if it's 13 cents per cup. So I mean they'd still make the lion's share of that 13 cents. They'd make
7.
A bit more.
Yeah, I can see. I definitely think 6 cents is where Keurig should shoot for. But where it says how much should they walk away, I think 2 cents doesn't seem like enough. It says what should their walk away price be? I think their walk away should be 3 cents. I think is when Keurig is kind of to the point where it's like we can make it on our own.
Yeah. Then again, if there's, I think they should have an exclusivity price or a.
That's true.
A licensing fee price. There's one. So the 2 cents maybe just for a regular might be work because you still got a lot of other people you can go market this to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to build the facilities and all that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think I think Keurig walk away should be. I think they should shoot for that. 6 is ideal. 5 is understandable because, all right, we're taking on a lot less risk when we join up. 4, I feel like is the bottom, and I think 3 would be kind of we can't do 3. I'd walk away at 3 type thing.
Yeah. If they can get 6, great. Somewhere between 3 and 6 would be that Zopa, I guess, for them.
Yeah. And then I feel like GMCR, realistically, I think is kind of the opposite because they are kind of saying, well, we're taking all the the processing, we're doing all the thing. You're using a lot of our already established things that we've taken time to build up. We should maybe make a little bit more than you do in this. The fact that they sell it for more, I don't think Keurig can kind of stick their nose up at. It's kind of like yeah, that's fair. So, and I feel like that kind of goes over the how to get the values we discussed. That is the Zopa.
Mm-hmm.
Not the Zupa, the sandwich shop.
That's why I kept Googling. It's like, man, all I'm finding about Zupa.
And then I guess we kind of discussed how big of a deal is exclusivity to both parties. I think what Aaron said is actually a really good point. I think to keep a really good deal with GMCR, kind of that timed exclusivity is something that they could almost offer for free just because it's like Keurig's not really out there selling it themselves anyways, so let's give these guys the benefit of making it sound like we're being really polite when really it's like we're just not going to go out there and pound the pavement ourselves on making the sale. So let's say we won't sell to anyone else for, that 12, 18 months type thing. And then at that point, the name would be out. And then they're like, and then we'll start selling to other people. Once we've made a lot of money, we can start, really paying a sales team and all this, then we'll break that. So I think that's a good point. I think Keurig could almost give that away for free as a really
That's another point we haven't discussed is Keurig doesn't make coffee. It's not easy to come up with a quality coffee that people are going to like and enjoy. It's just not that simple.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So once it's known that the Keurig machine makes good coffee, I think most people wouldn't notice if it all of a sudden was the top of the cup said, North Face or whatever the True North instead of Green Mountain. Most people, I have a feeling, aren't reading the top of the little cap. They just read, hazelnut. That's what I want. It's like, so yeah, once they get the Keurig machine makes good coffee, I think that's when people would be able to be fine buying whatever brand they saw. So, and then the last one was just, have we captured a complete picture of both parties' interests?
I think we kind of covered all that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess in summary, since we kind of have to say, I think my takeaway summary would just be that a great opportunity for both companies. They both kind of worked on something. Excuse me. They worked on it together, and now they got to a point where they can definitely profit together. And it seems mutually beneficial for them to come to a fair agreement, basically, because both of them could make this work on them by themselves, but it seems like doing it together is just a much faster process to get to market.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure, well, as we see, if we look future, they obviously did come together and work something out and did good. And they ended up selling it for $35 billion after they merged here a few years later, so they did well.
Yeah.
I think that's a wrap.
Yeah. Any other? I think that'll be it. I'll stop the recording there.
Well, thank you guys.